Greetings, greetings. Thank you, and welcome to the first episode of Self Discovery. First of all, I want to say thank you in my language. In Yoruba, we say Modupe. That means I'm grateful. I'm grateful that you're here joining me today as a tribe, connecting with this first episode of this podcast called Self Discovery. And let me introduce myself. I have many names. People call me Mo the Oracle, Divine Priestess. Some people call me a medium. Some people call me Moji Sola, my real name. And some people call me Lush of Lush Radio Online. I am an award winning media personality. I've interviewed Denzel Washington, Kevin Hart, and many others um, in the industry. And I've had a fascinating career. But I have been driven to this work of healing and finding out the true self that lies within us. Some people call it our Purusha, our soul, our spirit, or maybe the divine, and our true connection to the Creator within ourselves. And how do we heal? When did you understand that this is time to heal? I always say the most greatest thing we can do for ourselves is decide to heal, right? And forgive ourselves to move forward in our life. Um, I am a disabled veteran. I am a mother of a 20-year-old who's studying mechanical engineering. I am a dog mom and I am a wife. And mind you, I've been through a rough divorce, the first one. And then I, second time around, I didn't give up on love and I found the love of my life. Um, but through going through that journey, we'll have segments where we talk about that. I had to love myself. And you'll learn through these different episodes, the different chapters of my life. Along with that, we'll be doing interviews with different people to talk about how they healed and when did they start pivoting in their life and changing habits and things of that nature. I am also studying yoga therapy to find out the core and why people have a dis-ease in their body and how we hold on to anger and it manifests into pain and things of that nature and how we shift ourselves to come back into the gold zone. So these are the things that we might be talking about. We'll talk about life, we'll laugh, we'll dance, we'll sing. Sometimes I might pull cards, we'll do an affirmation a day. So these are the different things I do. I also am a survivor of military sexual trauma myself, and I work with people with trauma, that has been that they have been dealing with for a long time, also dealing with grief, which is a big thing that we don't really discuss as a community. People have been grieving for a long time and not having a safe space to share what is going on with them. So creating those safe spaces here, um, learning how to let go. Also, when you're awakening as a healer, what does that look like? How does that feel like? And everybody is going to be different. Um, and some of the challenges and roadblocks in your life, we're going to talk about that in self discovery. Also, I was a former homeless veteran with my child. I still watch Will Smith's movie. What is it? I think it's called something about promise or something like that. I can't remember the movie. Forgive me for that, but Pursuit of Happiness. That's what it is. And that scene when he had to rest with his son, and he was like, he needed to sleep, and he had to close the door. I think it was in the subway. Like I remember when I was like in Burger King, and I had to close the door so me and my daughter could just sleep for a second. So these moments, these different things, we'll go through a little bit of my journey in my life of how I've become who I am today. Because people always ask me, Mo, how do you keep a smile on your face with everything you've gone through? Well, we'll go through these different segments through this journey because, healing and going through these things are not easy, but you're not alone. So I hope together we can build community as you are a tribe and we connect each and every day. So thank you for joining me today on the first podcast of Self Discovery. So, self discovery today, we're going to just talk a little bit about why did I decide to start this podcast? So I've been doing podcasts before podcast was a thing, right? I was doing online radio and things of that nature before it was popular. They used to, back in the day, they used to call it pirate radio when it wasn't on AM, FM. And I've done it so much. And then I kind of got burnt out dealing with the industry. But now that I'm in this healing field, I decided that, it's time to talk with people and to share my story on how did I end up here? So, first, let's talk about why did I decide to do yoga, right? Um, it's interesting. So, when I was younger, I used to dance all the time. So, I had a beautiful dance teacher. Her name is Miss Perry. And she used to have us meditate, and it wasn't like there wasn't like a technical word at that time. And also because I'm Nigerian American and Yoruba, right? We always had this connection with India, regardless, right? So I was wearing bindis and all these things and stuff when I was younger. I even got married to, even though he's South America, he's Guyanese. My ex-husband was Hindu, and my daughter, she's half Indian. So it was just interesting, right? So I was doing, meditation when I was younger. There wasn't really a technical word at that time. We were just doing it. And it always brought me peace. But after, life slaps you around a little bit, you forget about all those different things. Like I was doing a lot of self-care stuff. When I look back, hindsight, I used to do all these things that now is popular, but people said it was weird because people didn't really believe in like self-care at that time. It's like drive on, what we don't talk about emotions, all these different things like that, right? So I used to do that, and so as I continued in my life, when I was like 10 or something, like my father, who came here, a beautiful man who found out he's a Pisces just like me. His birthday was February 22nd. And my father was murdered, and when we moved from New York to when we came to DC, I mean to Maryland at one point, and he was driving the cabs at that time. He had a good degree in agricultural engineering. But at that time, there was a lot of discrimination during that time for foreigners, and he was driving a cab, and he picked up a young man. And the young man at that time was troubled, I guess, in his own way, from what we said from the police report and in the news, because it's on the news. It happened in like 1990. And the young man came and tried to rob my father. My father told him not to shoot. And the young man, I guess he got trigger happy and he shot my father, right? So he shoots my father. My father tries to run and save his life by driving off, but he ends up, because he was losing so much blood, he ends up dying. He hits a pole and he dies. If the police had came a little bit earlier, they said they could have saved his life. So we go from that situation, and my mom's a single mom, have my brother and sister. I'm the oldest. So it's a lot. You lose your father at a young age. Your mom comes to this country with hopes and dreams, and you get a slap in the face because you're losing your father. Then again, you have to become this oldest child taking care of your brother and sister while your mom has to work several jobs, and she's dealing with her own issues, right? So all these things are going on. I move on to, high school, high school, dealing with so many different things, so many unprocessed emotions. And the way I used to express myself was through dance, drawing, and dance, drawing, and what else did I used to do? I used to dance, I used to draw, I used to sing, I used to rap. I used to be a rapper back in the day, right? I used to be a rapper. And Those were I and dancing. That's what used to be the way to express myself. But I think my mom was going through her own things and she tried to like suppress those things, and she knew that I was a creative. I was naturally born creative, but she wanted to suppress that. So went through those different things, right? So I had all these emotions and everything, but I still was a happy go lucky person. I always was happy go lucky. And dealing with back and forth things with family in general, and always trying to just escape. So I get into college, right? I get into college and I'm in college. I get a full scholarship at UMES to study. And my mother wants me to go in and study radiology. I did not want to do radiology. I wanted to do communications. I wanted to speak with people and change their lives. I got on some like radio thing on we were called the Noonies, right? And I was on a radio show on there. We were called the Noonies, and we used to was with a young girl from Jersey, and I used to do the jingles and everything. It was so cool. And at that same time I was struggling trying to survive down there because I ended up because my mom like kicked me out like when I was like 17 or so. So I came over there with like trash bags, and I'm like this bag lady in college, and I'm in there, and I'm just like trying to figure everything out, trying to grow up. I had to grow up. So I'm like Gen X. So kids nowadays, they're like, oh yeah, I'm struggling. I'm like, they don't even know half of the stuff. We had to figure things out when we were in Gen X, right? So then I was scraping plates. Like I didn't really like, even though I had a scholarship, like I had to like finagle my way to like survive. Like I worked at KFC, I worked in the cafeteria, scraping people like physically before COVID and all that stuff, taking my hands and scraping people's food off their plates, right? Surviving. So, I did what I had to do to survive. And so going through college, all of that stuff, my mom's dealing with her stuff, and a lot of her trauma that was unresolved due to my father passing, and just a lot of people just disappointing her in life. Our relationship was kind of rocky, bumping heads, and then I moved from there, and I'm like, I've been a tomboy all my life. And I like girly things, but I've always been a tomboy. Like I used to watch westerns, and I had the little, what is it, the pea shooter, the little gun or whatever, like the waist belt and everything. And I used to play with GI Joes, and they had and Transformers. So they had the theme song for the military, for the army, right? Be all that you can be in the army. And I was like, wow, I want to do that. I want to serve the country. I want to be gun ho. Like I thought I was going to be in an infantry unit. Like I was so excited, right? I was going to be like Mary Jane. I thought I was going to be an infantry unit, but no. But I did sign up. My mom was like really like she didn't want me to do it. She was like, "Oh no, I'm gonna get injured." All these other things. I think she kind of jinxed me though because I did end up getting injured in the military. But I went in and signed up. The recruiter said all kinds of stuff. These recruiters, I swear they lie. They tell you all kinds of stuff. It was a lie. You get up there, you think it's a whole unit of people that got your back, and like you, that's when they changed the theme song to Army of One, because you really are trying to fight for your life to survive in the system. So yeah, so you get in the military and you're in there, you get injured, you're in a cam walker. I'm in a cam walker and I'm injured, but I'm still doing my duty, all this stuff like that, right? And I'm married to, an abusive husband at the time, right? But before all the abuse, he seemed like a really lovely guy. And I get pregnant, I'm married, and then he's still abusive, and I'm still dealing with the military stuff, and I deal with military sexual trauma from one of my NCOs, right? And I deal with that, and it's like all these different things are going on. Plus, I'm a first time mom. And I could have been dealing with some with postpartum at the same time, right? So I was angry. I was angry at the military. I was angry at my ex-husband. I was just angry. There were so many different things. And I'm sitting here like, life just sucks, and there was times when I felt like just giving up on everything. So I left the whole military and stuff and, went through the whole homeless thing and stuff like that. And then finally got on my feet, finally got my first apartment. Um, and I was so happy. I remember when I got my keys to my place. I remember before that, my daughter used to like go when we go to the bus stop. She would pick up little magazines about apartments, and she would say, "Mommy, one day we're gonna have our apartment." And I was like, "Yeah," and I'd be crying to myself. I'm like, I don't even know how we're gonna eat the next day. So, but we finally get the apartment, and I'm excited, and I'm like, "This is mine." A place, a roof over our head. And one thing, even though me and my mom don't really talk as much, like she always said, it's not how you start it, it's how you finish it, right? And those who dance last dance the best, right? Which is just true statement. It's one thing I live by, right? She says, things change, people change, things don't always stay the same, So we have to be able to adapt and remember that these are tests in our lives that we're dealing with. So I went through all these different tests. There were so many different things. And then so I get this apartment and then I'm going to the VA. I can barely walk. I'm like 290. I'm sick. Like I'm sick every day. I feel like a disappointment. Like I just feel like, and always used to be small. So I like my body like went into shock when I started gaining weight, getting sick, and they had me on steroids and all kinds of stuff. Had asthma medicine, all kinds of medicine they had me. It was a freaking pharmacy. If you know veterans, they're giving us so much medicine to drug us. It's like we're in a pharmacy, right? So it's all this medicine, and I'm like, I can barely like even function. But I'm still functioning, but like I'm not really like I'm not in my body. I'm not in my body. And I remember that somebody invited me to go to a yoga thing at one of these CBOX. So I go there and I go to the CBOX, and it was the worst experience in my life. It was terrible. I go there, young lady, she's doing it. She has the whole outfit, she has the whole aesthetic and everything. And we're getting into the part of getting into Shavasana, and she's supposed to be doing some yoga nidra. And I end up because I didn't realize that my body needed to rest. Like I needed sleep. I end up like nodding off, and she like kicks me. I was like, wow. I'm like, this is before the whole being trauma informed, right? I was just like in shock. I was like, wow. That was my first and last experience over there at the CBOC. This is before they got trauma sensitive teachings, right? So then there was this wonderful program called CAMO, Challenge Aspen Camo. It's a organization that helps support disabled veterans to restore their confidence within themselves by skiing and wellness and things of that nature. I remember that time, like I still had a cam walker on my foot, and I'm going there, and they're like, "We got to go ski," and I'm like, "Ski? I'm like, first of all, the altitude was insane. I was like, could barely breathe, and I couldn't really ski. It was a terrible time for me the first time. And then I got re-endorsed to Emily, and we did some yoga, and it hurt so bad. My whole body hurt so bad. And she was like, and she was like, when you get home, I want you to try to find somebody to do yoga with. And it was so supportive for me. So then finally the VA finally gets yoga, it's approved. And I get Pamela Stokes Eggleston. She comes in and she's my yoga therapist at that time. Well, I think at that time I think she was doing her 200 hour at that time. I can't remember. The first time I met her originally, she was in her 200 hour and they were doing a workshop with an organization. Then the second time she was a yoga therapist when I met her. And she came and she saw me in the house and she's like, "You're flexible, Mo. You can do some of these things." So she introduced me to sound baths. asanas, meditation, and all these things reintroduced me to, and it didn't feel that bad as it didn't feel as bad. There was a lot of encouragement, so we did that, and I'm going through that whole process, and I'm still trying to figure out. Life just feels like crap at that time that I'm going through that stuff. I'm still trying to figure out this whole parenting things. My daughter's growing up. I'm trying to figure out everything, trying to figure out relationships, a whole bunch of stuff, going in about different relationships. And then I'm still doing this yoga, but I'm starting to feel like it's doing something for me. And then she's like, you should start, doing more yoga. So I continue to do more yoga. I get more interested. She's like, maybe you might be interested in become a yoga teacher. I was like, no, I'm doing this for me to heal myself. And she kept pushing, and she's like, maybe you might think about doing yoga. I'm like, nah. Then we look at doing Reiki. For some reason, I felt the calling of Reiki. And Pam introduced me to Linda Miller, and we went there to her studio. And I learned that we did one, two, then three. But I felt some calling to do Reiki. It just already felt within me, and it's just I needed someone to unlock it. And when it happened, I just started doing Reiki on people. I loved it. I loved it so much. And I continued to do Reiki until I became a Reiki master. Then during COVID, I decided, after, she asked me again, she said, Mo, I think you want to be a yoga teacher. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And I go and I study. I become a 2 hour, 200 hour. Then I become a 500 hour. Then I thought I was going to take a break. And then I get introduced to Amy Wheeler into Optimal State Yoga Therapy School. And I'm back in school again. And I'm studying yoga therapy. And I'm like, aha, it makes sense now. This is my calling. I don't even think Pam ever thought that I was like a regular yoga teacher. I was already working and dealing with a sleep clinic for people who had chronic sleep disorders, people who are dealing with palliative care, and people that are going to hospice, cancer patients, people with um, all kinds of different irritable bowel, all kinds of different issues, and finding alternative methods to help them and assist them on a daily basis. And and I was like, oh, this is my calling. So doing this yoga therapy thing, and I'm like, wow, like the more and more I get into it, I'm like, this is changing my life. But then the fact that I see people healing and changing as I'm doing this work with them, it was so rewarding. It wasn't even like about money or anything. It was just like I can see people heal. I've even done sessions in Omega Holistic Institute in upstate New York in Rhinebeck, and I've done sessions with people. I also do this labyrinth workshop where I send people in so they can let go of things and stuck emotions, and I infuse them with Reiki in those sessions, and they're able to come back whole again to themselves. So all these different issues and these different things that I went through in my life set me up to this moment in this state that I am now. They said sometimes you have to go through so you can come through, right? Every setback is a setup for a step up, right? So each session in your life is a lesson, right? There's no such thing as failure. It's only research and development, right? When a business has a situation or they call it a failure, which it's not, they go back to the drawing board and they do research and development so they can do more work to better what they did before. And honestly, how can you be a failure if you're developing? We're constantly developing all the time. But we have to look at these karmic cycles that we deal with, right? And we continue going through the same cycle over and over again until we realize what the lesson is. What is the lesson? And I had to realize that, you know what? I had to get out my own way. I had to get out my own way. I had to understand that I was never meant to fit in. I had to understand that I love myself so much that I'm willing to let people go because people come for a season and for a reason. So, all of that to say is that my life journey has not been easy, but I'm here with a smile on my face because I know the universe isn't done with me yet. So, through these episodes, we'll learn some life lessons, we'll do some meditations, we'll connect with each other, and we'll find ways to reach our self discovery. Along with that, we'll be doing some interviews with some interesting people in different walks of life to tell us how were they able to heal and when did they decide to heal? Because you know what? People can tell you to heal all day, but it's up to you to decide to heal, right? So, this is just a small version. This is an introduction of a little bit of who I am, maybe a little bit of layer, but it's not all of who I am. And I just want to say once again in my Yoruba dialect, Modupe, I'm grateful for you joining me today on our first episode of, you know what it is, self discovery. So thank you. We'll have an interview with our next guest, our first guest actually, that's going to be dropping in with us. Don't forget to check out www.loveenergyservices.com and check out all of the services that we provide here. And remember that healing doesn't require anything but you just showing up for yourself, okay? So thank you for showing up here with us. And check us for the next episode. The next episode, we'll have a little bit of meditation. We'll get some interviews in, we'll have an affirmation in. And just remember that life may throw you a curveball, but you're always in charge of the direction it goes. Peace.